minutes or so, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, show you some of my artwork, and demonstrate a few techniques for adding texture to your paintings. First, a little bit of information about myself. I was born in the Southwest and attended Stanford University in California, where I studied science and education. There, I met and married a Navy man. Together, we have 2 sons, Jimmy and Kevin.
Hi, I'm Chip.
Hey, I'm Jimmy.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
We currently reside in the Norfolk area here in southeastern Virginia. As a sometime teacher and sometimes stay-at-home mom, I kept busy during the early part of my adult life. But I always had a dream of one day learning how to paint pictures, of being able to capture and reproduce that feeling of awe that you get when you see a beautiful sunset or a mist-covered lake. One day, about 6 years ago, I discovered I had a little bit of extra time on my hands now that my boys were older and a little bit more self-sufficient. I happened upon a book about how to paint in watercolor, and I sat down to paint my first painting.
This is the piece I created that first day. It's called Imaginary Landscape.
Since then, I have made practicing art a part of my life and have learned to love the watercolor medium. I have been in several shows here in the neighborhood and continue to seek to develop my creativity and expand my repertoire.
Here's a sampling of several pieces I've created over the years. It's fun to see how creative you can get trying to find ways to add texture to a watercolor painting. Let me share with you a few ways that you can do that.
The first technique I'd like to show you makes use of spray bottles for creating foliage for trees and bushes. I'll begin by spraying a little bit of clear water on my subject.
Then we'll add some color. Greens, just a touch of yellow. Later we'll add a little bit more clear. The greens and yellows suggest that this tree is in a summertime scene. You can also do autumn scenes by using reds, oranges, and browns on your trees. This is a good technique for trees and shrubs in the foreground of your paintings. After letting our tree dry for a little bit, we'll build up some more foliage. This will give it layers of texture. You won't end up with just one big blob of green. I happen to use a pump spray bottle made by Holbein. You can find these at any art store. Do make sure that you use the pump bottle, though, as opposed to the trigger spray. And there you can see the effect.
Here's a technique for adding texture when you want something to have a worn and weathered look. For this technique, I'm going to make use of sea salt. For this example, we'll paint a wall at an adobe-style pueblo, such as you might find in New Mexico.
First of all, we'll give it a coat of terracotta-colored paint. I mixed up this paint with burnt sienna, mixed with a little bit of pale yellow, quinacridone gold, and just a touch of burnt umber. Because the wall is drawn in perspective, I will add salt to the front of the wall first. Then let the wall dry as we slowly continue to add salt on down towards the far end. This will give it a more pronounced effect in the foreground. You'll find that the wetter the paint, the more pronounced the effect. If you want a great effect, make sure your paint is nice and wet. For a lesser effect, allow the paint to dry slightly before adding your salt.
Now you won't necessarily see the effect right away. It tends to develop over time like a Polaroid picture. But I do have one that I've done before, so I can give you an idea of what it looks like after it's dried. My favorite technique for adding texture to watercolor paintings makes use of cling wrap.
For this example, I'll use the same Adobe style structure that I used for the sea salt example. We'll paint it with some more of the terracotta, keeping it somewhat wet. Having grown up around these Adobe buildings, I know that this technique will give it an authentic look.
Now we'll take our cling wrap and just scrunch it up a little bit. Put it on the face of our building. And leave it to dry. After waiting for the paint to dry, we now remove the saran wrap, and you can see the effect.
I used this technique on this piece entitled Indian Corn. You can see on the wall behind the corn here that characteristic texture. So now you know a little bit about me and my art, and you know how to create foliage with a water bottle, how to create wear and tear with salt, and how to create an uneven surface texture. Well, that's a wrap.